Yes, of course he did. We're in a situation where after 4 attempts of Netanyahu to try to form a normal, stable government, he's failed. To think that going for a fifth time will be the time in which he's able to go ahead and form one is obviously foolish. It's either we go ahead and move forward with this plan, or we go to another election, a fifth election within just 2.5 years, and it just is not a serious way to be able to conduct the business of a national country.
We've already had one Knesset member from the Yamina list declaring that he will not be a member of the Change Coalition, Amichai Shikli. Will there be others, or is the list firmly behind Bennett's decision?
Yesterday, the entire list met with Naftali Bennett at the Yamina headquarters. The entire list stands behind Naftali, and those who might have reservations said that if they're not able to go ahead and be a part of this, that they agreed to step aside and resign and allow those who would be able to go ahead and do their job.
Assuming the new government is sworn in next week, and as we know, a week is a long time in Israeli politics, how long do you think realistically this government will last?
Well, it depends a lot on what happens with the members of the coalition. If people decide that they're going to spend their time trolling each other and trying to submit things that they know will not be passed, because, of course, as part of this government, there is veto power for both sides. So if, we see situations on either side of the government in which they decide to bring up issues of the day that will cause deadlock, then we will ultimately have to go and have that extra election. If they decide to act like responsible adults, which I expect the entire Israeli public expects them to be able to put their differences aside, then I think we'll have a great government. So it really is up to the elected officials themselves to make the decision if they want to be responsible or if they want to play games.
Yamina is a radical right-wing party with a radical right-wing agenda. It's already clear, is it not, that you won't be able to get much of that through with this kind of coalition?
Well, I would definitely disagree with your definition of us being a radical right-wing party. It is true that, of course, Naftali Bennett will be the most right-wing prime minister Israel has ever seen. And, of course, we are to the right of the Likud on many issues when it comes to national security and diplomacy. Now we're in a situation that we're dealing, as I said, with the deadlock of Israeli instability of just election after election without the ability to pass the most basic elementary fundamental aspects of any government, which is, passing a national budget. We're the only country around the globe not to pass one in 2020. We're the only ones not to do so yet in 2021. And the 2022 budget is coming up soon. People who pay taxes deserve to get government services. They deserve to have a government pass a budget, whether they agree with it or not. They want to know what the priorities are of the government and where it is that they can expect to see those services coming from. And I'm very confident that if everyone is able to go ahead and realize that the main things we need to deal with today are the economic and health aspects of this next term, then we'll do okay. If people are going to expect us to apply Israeli sovereignty to Judea and Samaria, so yeah, they're going to be disappointed. If on the other side there are people who are going to expect some sort of disengagement or some sort of peace deal with the Palestinians, they're also going to be disappointed. All of these ideological things are going to go to the side, and we're not going to deal with them for the next few years. That's the only way that this government's going to work, and I think a majority of Israeli citizens are okay tabling a lot of those discussions in order to get Israel working again.
How concerned are you over the right-wing protests outside the homes of Yamina Knesset members and also the very vicious campaign on social media?
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure concerning. Of course, every citizen has their democratic right to protest. I think a lot of these protests have definitely crossed the line. I know that a lot of my friends have got death threats. We've seen a lot of cases in which a lot of these protests definitely ended up crossing a number of lines. But that's just a part of the process. We've seen throughout Israel's existence very tense protests between different segments of society. And if anything, that just proves why it's necessary at this point to try to form a government that will be able to heal a lot of these rifts within the nation, a government that will be able to serve both right and left, one that will be able to serve both religious and secular, those who are, of course, native Israelis who are born here, as well as immigrants who came here from the various places around the globe. That's the type of government we need. We need a government that's going to work for everybody, as opposed to a government that's just going to work for just a few people.
As a member of the Yamina list, what's the worst reaction you've had over the last few days to the events that have taken place? For instance, have you lost friends over this?
Well, obviously I'm having heated debates within both my family and among my friends. Are there people who are choosing to go ahead and take that personal line between politics and, if you will, personal relationships and decide that there is no line there, and is there you're either with me or against me type attitude? Unfortunately, yes, there are people that are going in that direction. A majority of people are not. I would say that I'm getting a great deal of support as well from a number of people. It's not just people who are criticizing, but this is finally what ends up being a resolution of deadlock for, as I mentioned, about 2.5 years here in Israel, where we've not really, had a good idea in terms of how this would all play out. So naturally, you're going to have people who are very invested in one side or another and are going to take the situation personally. I think it's unfortunate that, again, some of the people are choosing to make it very personal. But I'm well aware of the propaganda machine that is spewing hate coming from the other side. And it's fine to disagree with this, and there are a lot of legitimate reasons and concerns that people can have. But there's also a way to be able to express those issues. The two things that I can tell you that I ask the people who have issues is, number one, what is their alternative? And number two, what are their fears of this next coalition? What it comes down to, when you actually look at the details, it's very clear the alternative to this coalition is another election, which I think is a bad thing. There are those who will say it's a good thing, but that's really where the argument lies. And in terms of fears that people have, when you have veto power on both sides, it's very clear that this is not going to be a very ideological type of government. This is going to be one that is going to deal with a lot of technocrat issues in terms of being able to build hospitals in the north and the south, strengthen our health system, of course, deal with the various issues when it comes to being able to help our economic recovery from the very, very difficult situation that we dealt with, the very big blow from Corona. So we'll see what happens, but I think people need to take this stuff in proportion.